Oh,
Hey, man.
what's up, man? What's up, Coach D?
I was
The community?
wondering- Hey, man. Must be Thursday. Sure is vested. It's vested time. Let's do it. Might as well.
How you doing, man?
What's good, Jamar?
How are you?
I'm shook up. I am. Like, I'm actively vulnerable. Here we
Oh
are.
man, what's
Oh, it's me looking at me. And
what's
this
what's
little
going on?
thing.
What you shook up about, man?
I don't know, all of it. All of it. It's just getting to me. This whole situation. Like, I feel like in a lot of ways, man, I try to hold space for this opportunity to be my best self. And sometimes I feel like I might just be getting in my own way, you know? Or in the way of things.
Mm-hmm.
You know what? I need help.
What?
Sorry. That's the
You
community.
good?
There's things associated with sitting all the time where you can't do things on your own, and this is one of those things that it's like magic, because there'll be like this technical thing that goes on, but it'll be behind the scenes and you'll never really know what happened. So we continue. So Jamar,
Hey, man. 24.
talk to me about the judgment thing. Next week we have a really cool opportunity. We're going to bring guests back into the situation because I have a special family, and we're going to call it something like Family Matters. But we have 3 very successful people that I don't know, kind of came together and did it as a team, and they worked through the tough stuff, and then they busted their tail. But this week was somewhat of a pivot. Like, we had all these ideas that we were going to take into the episode and everything, and maybe it was just the climate or what was in the air, but Jamar, this whole judgment concept came up, and I don't know if it was Rebecca from the tech team, if it was you, if it was me, or if it was just a collective thing. Let's talk about judgment in a way that we can graze over our themes, inspire, create, and empower. How can we do that, Jamar? Like, how can we go over what's happening in the world right now in a way where it's inspirational? How can we look at the judgment that's happening and be creative with it? Let's do this, Jamar. Talk to me.
Well, the message say, right? To judge or be judged. You know, that's the world we're living in today. There's so many different reasons why a human being can judge another human being. And I think that right there, if we live in a state of judgment just produces this energy that is not inspiring, it's not creating anything powerful, and is definitely not empowering us to do nothing, right?
Right.
But how do we, the elephant in the room is that we're in a very judgmental society currently in the world we live in today. Whether it's your political views, whether it's, are you taking the vaccine, whether it's, you know, what are you doing? Are you working? Are you still going into the office? Are you working at home? Are you out of work? Are you in work? You know, what are you eating? You know, what's your faith foundation? You know, what's your culture? You know, what do you believe? Like, it's everything is judgmental.
Well, okay. And I think there's this like association with that word, and maybe tonight we can break away from it, because things happen and we're going to cast our opinions upon the things that happen. Mm-hmm. So where I think it fits within our framework and our show is how, because when you're exposed to some dramatic thing, or whether you want to be or not, like you're going to react. You're going to have an opinion. You're going to have some thoughts. And in a lot of ways, a lot of the time, you could have emotions associated with these thoughts. And I think that we've gotten a little flared up with how these thoughts turn into emotions. And it's hard to be inspired by the changing of the guard when there's so many red hot emotions based on this judgment culture that we're dealing with. And so can we inspire? Let's try to inspire here.
Yeah, let's do it.
Let's back up. You know, I always want to jump in.
All right.
So let's back up and let's work with the definition real quick. So tech team, if you could throw a little definition up there. Jamar, hit it.
Wow. Judgment. The ability to make considered decisions or come to sensible conclusions. Wow. The ability to make considered decisions or come to sensible conclusions. Right?
Okay, now this is critical.
Spin it for us. Spin it.
When something like what happened at the Capitol is exposed to us, we now are in a position where we have to choose our thoughts wisely, because the reaction to this situation could, in a lot of ways, be more devastating than the fact that it actually happened. And let's just use this as somewhat of like a template of how we can apply our thoughts towards something to make it what we want it to be. Because I think that's where we're at right now, Jamar, is there's a lot of things that are happening right now, and we look at it and there's this energetic code that we're adding to it that's like, I don't want that. That's terrible. I don't want to look at that. That's bad. But there's some things that need to come to the surface that we're going to need to be able to look at that aren't so pretty, that we're going to need to change. But in order to do that, we have to accept it for what it is. And right now, some of the things that we're being exposed to are very difficult to accept at face value, because we find ourselves just reacting to this stuff and casting a judgment upon it. And we might not necessarily want that to be our thought or our emotion, or what it is that we're associating ourselves with is a negative component to what's happening. And I know that we don't want that loop to continue. We don't want to continue to be negative. So can we drop down the little inspired thing real quick? Because I don't know how we're going to do this. So let's just drop it down.
I'm going to inspire somebody. Let's go.
Let's do it. So kick it off, Jamar. Let's start with
real quick, Coach G. It just hit me right now. And I'm being real to the vested community, man. I don't know what went down at the Capitol, brother. People, I remember I got a call, was it last week? And that she's like, one of my good friends, business coach, amazing person, Lauren, she's like, you must be under a rock, Jamar, if you don't know what's going on. I was like, no, I really don't know. It's like the first news that I got about the Capitol was coming from Lauren. And I realized that I'm just not tuned into that. Like, I really believe that it's so important for us, going back to where energy flows, where we focus, energy flows, where energy flows, things grow. If I'm not going to get out there and make change, then I'm not tuning into the things that need to be changed. That's my mindset. Is it the right set? No. If you want to judge me for it, it's all good. I love you either way. So here, that's just my take on life, right? If I'm not going to get out there and do some work and be proactive and be an activist and get activated about whatever the topic may be, then I'm not going to be investing my time and involved in the frequency and the vibration. And so that's, for me, like I have that protective boundary of information that comes in. Now, if I'm going to get out there and I'm going to actually embrace and communicate change, and for whatever the situation may be, now I'm all in. I'm all in. But I think where change needs to happen for us, Coach D, is we need to grow self. I was just talking to a leader, my executive leadership team today, and we were talking about the book that we're going through. We talked about it here before, the leadership, and we're talking about from a moving to a transformational leader. And transformational leaders, we must change within before we can encourage change. And so all these things that are happening in the world, there's a lot of things that are not positive, right? A lot of things that are way out of our control. But if we're not going to be out there actually actively trying to create the change and be the change, then why even tune in? And that's my mindset. You know, someone may judge me for it, and so hey, it's all good. But that's I want to make sure that I'm staying in a state of total power, because if there's only so much that we can tune into, there's only so much that we can receive before it actually starts to change us. And the more we tune into what's going on out there, the more we start to judge everything else that's going wrong. That's my opinion, man. That's my opinion. You might feel differently, Coach D.
Look, this is where I'm caught, okay? And this we'll deal with maybe 3 different places where I'm caught in all 3 of these different sections, because
I'm all
there's
caught
a
up.
part of my ego that is exhausted because I put so much effort into living my life so hard in the best way that I know how. And I don't feel like it's enough. I don't feel like it's not catching. Like, as hard as I try, like, I have this ego attached to wanting it to work, and it just isn't. And it's like, the harder I try, the harder it is, and the more I feel like there's just more uphill to go. And it's like, that's just a perspective. And it's like, there's ego behind what it is that I must be doing, because I must be expecting some sort of result, or to create or gain some sort of momentum. But for whatever reason, like, I'm getting frustrated that, like, as hard as I try, this altruism, this positivity, this map that I'm trying to share with people, they don't want to hear it. And as hard as I try to live it, it's like it's not catching fire. Everybody's still angry. Everybody's still judging. Everybody's still pissed. They look at me and all this that I'm doing, okay, and as hard as I'm trying to live, and it's just another life, it's just another guy, and it's like, why should I listen to him any more than I listen to a Kardashian? And it's like, I don't know, I guess they have more followers, so maybe you should just listen to them. And like, that's frustrating to me, man, because I'm doing it hard and I'm doing it my best, and it's like, it's not enough. And that's just a feeling, that's my perspective. But like, how is that supposed to be inspirational? Like, I'm trying to be vulnerable here so that I can let people know that it's not about always just going out and doing your best and staying within that vibration, that like, I get down because I can find it within myself to share that. But what good is it when the I am we are process is so mired down with all this judgment and fear? And it's like, it's like death by 1,000 cuts. Like, I'm this really strong person, but at the same time, it's like I'm catching myself going, well, what the hell? Then why? If everybody's just gonna be a dick, then what's the point? Like, it's just a mask, man. It's just a cold. Like, everybody's freaking out, and it's getting in the way of us being able to enjoy things, each other, outside, God, all this other stuff that matters so much more than all this friggin' drama, man. And I'm frustrated, dude. I'm tired of
Coach
it.
D,
And,
have you ever judged another person?
I can't look at you and say no. I can't look at you and say that that I'm free of all that. Like, I can do my best to have good thoughts that turn into good emotions, but then when something like that capital thing happens, whether I was ultra exposed to it or just a little bit, it makes me question everything, because it's just something that happened, and it's unfortunate in a lot of different ways, and we can form our thoughts and opinions, but at the same time, like,
you didn't answer the question. You didn't answer the question. Have you ever judged another person?
I've judged other people, whether it's directly or indirectly.
You know what? And I have too, right? I have too. I think that every person has judged another person at some point. I think it's part of our human nature. Like you said, the ego, right? It's part of the flesh. Judgment is part of the flesh. And it's not a good thing, right? It's not. And we were talking about this in pregame, right? We look at whether you're going to someone's Facebook, or you look at their Instagram, or you look at their Twitter page, or you look at it, we're instantly judging someone.
Is it ever a good thing?
No.
How can I look at this inspirational, Jamar?
Well, here's the thing. Remember, what is the foundation that we always talk about? Awareness. Right. Let's be inspirational by bringing awareness to the topic that we know we all judge each other. Right. Okay. So we can't course correct. We can't shift. We can't improve. We can't get better if we're not aware that we need to get better.
Okay, well, so with the map, you're mindful of your thoughts, which creates an awareness, but that leads to an acceptance. And I think that where I'm at right now, and where a lot of people are at within this pandemic, or within themselves within the pandemic, is that the awareness that they're creating is very difficult to accept, because there's so much of it that is exposing ugliness, and we can't go right or left or around or above or below. We have to go right through it. That's the only way to really get it done. That's the only way to really purge yourself from the suffering that comes along with it all. And there's no map to each person's approach is different. Mm-hmm. And
hey.
who are we supposed to follow? Like, you know, it's this internal creation and everything, but it's like I'm not. A lot of times, I'm not inspired by this. So
you know who I was judging? The people who were buying truckloads of toilet paper. I'm like, man, what are you doing?
And you're supposed to have compassion, right? Because you look at it and it's almost silly, like grade schoolers, and it's like.
I'm just kidding for all you toilet paper hoarders out there. I love you. I got a bidet. We're all good. You know.
I'm tired of you people being ridiculous. I'm sorry. It's time. Sooner or later, you have to look yourself in the mirror and realize.
I just want one paper towel, man. Give me one paper towel.
I don't need more. Like, thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you. I'll get all serious. Sorry.
I know. Hey,
light serious, man.
Put on your slippers or something, bro. Get lightened up.
I'm not gonna get in front of a camera. I'm not gonna broadcast to people that actually spend their time and efforts to support us and listen and be something that I'm not. And I can't get up here and just, you know, I love to be able to laugh in the middle of how I feel, because it's gotta ebb and flow. But like, this is real, man. We're going through these things, and it's just tough, dude. And there's no right answer, and it's going to have to come from within. So we do have an opportunity to character build. It's okay to recognize that sometimes, man, we catch ourselves in these judgments, these thoughts and feelings that might not make us feel so good. So if I'm hearing you right, Jamar, the answer is to just accept the idea that, like, it's a little bit bunk. And if there's some stuff that you created that you're becoming aware of right now that's a little bit ugly, and you have to accept it, and it's difficult, I guess you just got to be patient. And, you know, Jamar, the way you approach it is to just kind of pin your ears back and go. And I mean, I'm sure there's collateral damage when you're going that fast. I mean, you're going to bang your elbows and knees, but at the same time, like, you're doing it to shine light upon who you are as an individual and your cause and your purpose. And I mean, we were talking about Jamar's spin class before the show started, everybody. And he was like, look, it's not for everybody. We yell, we scream, we're loud. It's who we are, and it's not for everybody. But you've taken a stance, man. You've decided that I believe in this, and there's other people that show up and they believe in it as well. And honestly, Jamar, that's the answer. You have to take a stand for who it is that you want to be and what it is that you want to believe in, and make sure that the firm stance that you take is worth believing in. If it's just a bunch of hogwash and nonsense and more drama, get in line, man. There's a spot for you up the street at Costco. They're 6 feet apart and you have to wear a mask. But there's a spot for all that drama. And from what I can gather, Jamar, what's inspirational to me is that you choose to live in and embody an idea, an energy, an emotion that's bigger than that.
Well, here's the thing, Coach D, that the foundation for all of us is love. I genuinely believe that every human being, deep down in our core, we want to be loved and appreciated. We want to be valued, loved, and appreciated. Like down there to when you get to like the core. And so if we as leaders, and I'm always talking to us as leaders, right? As we as leaders and impact players, I was just talking to the executive, Nuvia executive leadership team today. The goal this week is to be an impact player. Like, how are we impacting others?
There's no love, judgment.
Is there any love and judgment?
Where is it? It has to exist, because it is just thoughts and opinions, and we have to have compassion for the people, whether they're thoughts.
You know
and
what feelings. I think is loving is understanding that we should not judge others. I think that's the true definition of love, is realizing that despite what this person believes, despite this person's opinion, despite this person's stance, I'm not going to judge them because I'm not in agreement with their actions, their thoughts, their words, their beliefs, their behaviors. I think that is the true definition of love, because it's easy to go the opposite direction. It's easy to not be in alignment, right? It's easy to not be in agreement. You think about it right now. What if everyone was more aware of the power of us judging each other, right? Like, what if we all knew, said, okay, I'm gonna make it intentional that I'm gonna accept people, and I really feel that for me, I'm working on that to just accept everyone where they are and meet them where they're at, and let people remember God's greatest gift that He gave us was free will. If God, and let's bring the spiritual frequency, if you believe in God, and if you don't believe in God, right? So I'm talking from those who believe in the Creator. If God says, I have the authority, what'd you say, bro?
So I do.
Yeah, me too. I have the authority. He can call a shot any moment in time. But the greatest gift, He says, I want you to have choice. I want you to choose to love me. I don't want you to be forced to love me, because I have the ability to make you love me. I want you to choose to follow me and believe in me and love me, because that's your choice. So God, the Alpha and the Omega, the Creator of the universe, is giving someone that choice of eternity.
All right, hold on. We need to create. Because this is all sounds great. We got to figure out how to create. Okay, listen, we're gonna do this. Watch, ready? I'm gonna go. Wow. Because for whatever reason there are technical difficulties, and we're going to skip the banner right now because that's the way the show's going. Okay, so Jamar, drop us into
free will, bro. Free will.
So we have our free will. Okay. All of this sounds great, and through a divination, a devotion to a practice that you believe in, you can exercise exactly what you're talking about, and through dedication and goodwill, like, you can get there, man. But for those that have done that, they have this system, this faith-based, not a crutch, but this faith-based strength to be able to count on, to be able to lean into right now. And it's almost like, I feel like going out into the sun, because you just know that it's there and you know that it's going to be okay. But Jamar, there's a good portion of this world that just doesn't have that, and they're freaking out. And I'm not trying to judge anybody. Like, I'm looking at the world, and I'm trying to sort how I feel on the inside. Not judgment, but like, oh,
woo! That was a sneak attack. That was a sneak attack, bro. That's how you sneak attack. That's how you sneak attack. You create the sneak attack.
So that was good.
I got a question.
Like, I don't even know what I was talking about.
I got a question. Look at that. Boom. Do not judge. Do not judge, or you will be. Oh my God. Tag team that so.
Oh, that's some Bible darkness.
Damn.
That's some Bible darkness.
Damn. Right? It's a spiritual frequency.
Google is watching.
Wow.
God is in the cloud.
Oh my goodness. Hey, and it doesn't matter if you believe or not. Right? That's a pretty clear shot across the bow. You judge, you will be judged. Right? So you look at like
and nuns, Catholic schools, early 60s.
Look at the cycle, right? Like, we're on this cycle as a society. Like, we're judging, and then we're being judged, and then we're judging, and then we're being judged, and then we're judging, and then we're being judged. And next thing you know, you got this toxic energy that just boom.
Translate it, Jamar. Create for us, okay? Like, let's just pretend right now that I had not adhered to a creator, that I had not accepted the love of the God that died for my sins into my heart. We need to find a way, Jamar, to be able to speak to an energy right now that's not necessarily foreign to you and I, but at the same time, it's in our pool, man. It's there are non-believers right now that are deeply suffering because they don't know how to create with their free will a way out of the way they feel, because they created this. They created this darkness. They accepted the idea of fear. They accepted the idea of giving into greed or lust and just leaning into it and just accepting it as a way of life. And now all of a sudden, when something like this happens, a great awakening, and you have to look at yourself, oh my goodness, Jamar, you and I don't have to do that, because we've really pushed towards finding the light within who we are so that we can not only feel it, but share it with others. I'm trying to find compassion right now. I'm trying to create with this dark energy of all of these groups of people that are now living in this remorseful spot where they're grieving the idea that, oh man, maybe I made a bunch of wrong decisions. So I don't want to like completely look past the idea that there's just so much suffering right now, because we have an answer here. We give it to people every week. We come out here and we share our vulnerability. We share the fact that we're struggling and that we're working through it. And we even give people little nuggets so that they can use it in their own lives. But for those that aren't there, man, like for those that are really hurting and really suffering, man, like this is where Damien's ego hurts, because I just tried so hard to live the hell out of my life in such a way that I'm holding space for those people, for the bad guys to look at it and to just recognize that, like, even though you've made all these decisions with your free will, like it's okay to stop making that bad decision and
I got a question.
create a better one, and understand that like people like Steve Jobs, man, that have totally changed the world, like they're not here to enjoy it, and they
I got a question.
greatly.
Question, Coach D, question.
Yo,
First and foremost, I want Vested community to know, I want you to know, man, I fall short to glory all the time. Man, I mean, I fall down, I get off track, I get distracted, man. God looks at me like, Jamar, you ain't learned that already? So just know that I'm working too, man. Like I got to grow, I got to get better too. So I just always want people to know, maybe the way that I choose to look at things is always from an optimistic, positive, faith and grace-based outlook, right? But I'm human too. Like I have the negative thoughts and judgment and the dark side of the flesh that comes against me too. Like I'm a human being too. Because I have a question for you, because it's very evident that one of your superpowers is the way you feel the vibration of the universe, the vibration of the environment. Would you call yourself an empath?
100%.
So how would you talk to someone else like you, like who has that superpower to feel things? Because you're coming from a place right now that I feel that you're really picking up, you're tuning in to the frequency of the energy that's out there right now, which is impacting your own mojo. Because like you said, you wear your heart on your sleeve, right? You are who you are. But if you naturally are able to tune into this energy, and when that energy is not serving you, you're taking on this energy that could be disempowering, and it gives you an opportunity to reflect on, why am I feeling this way, right? How would you communicate to someone? How would you and help someone who is like you, who feels that way, create a way out of this feeling? Because the vibrations that are coming are from external.
I just think that the way that it's affecting our entire environment, it's unavoidable that it's like stepping out in the rain and hoping not to get wet. It's like, it's going to happen. So I think that the creation from within has to be a decision. You have to make room for the idea that you're going to get wet if you're going to step out in the rain. And if you're going to be out into this world where everybody is entrenched in fear, you're going to have to come up with a strategy. And I think that where I'm at right now, Jamar, is that it's not a matter of whether or not I feel like I'll be okay or not, because you know as well as I do that if you have faith, full faith from within, that like whether you agree with it or not, whether your body says yay when you're practicing this faith or not. Like once you have it, you know you'll be okay. Whether you accept suffering in your life, it's entirely up to you. I mean, there's suffering that goes along with faith, like you were just saying. Like things happen, we make choices, we deal with them. But at the same time, like I'm having trouble with the environment and the way that it's affecting me to try to stay positive. And okay, like tech team just threw a just a little thought experiment into the comment section. They're saying, okay, so you're vegan, right? And you're driving by McDonald's, or how about In-N-Out? Because all of a sudden in this pandemic, I guess
double animal style.
Okay, so you're vegan, right? Double animal style guy, and you're at a stoplight and you see, restaurants that you really liked going out of business because they didn't get the type of, I don't know, traffic that they needed to be able to stay on the up and up, or it's too expensive or whatever. But you see a line that is literally blocking the driveway out of In-N-Out that you can't even go buy your groceries. How are you supposed to look at that and not cast a judgment? And okay, a man of faith, how would you suggest that vegan deals with the way that they feel?
Man, here's the thing. Judgment is a default thought. Like that's the truth. Like once we come to that revelation that us judging others, like it's an automatic natural response. And I think that's why God wants to be aware of it. Like here, if you feel this natural default thought and you act on it, it's going to flow back to you, right? Man, it's just part of the game. And I look at it from a different perspective. I would just, as you're talking, I'm thinking about, what's up, bro? I was just thinking about how I judge people, right? And I'm thinking about people who smoke. I know you don't smoke cigarettes, right? Do you smoke cigarettes, Coach D? No, neither do I. But have you ever been around someone who smokes a cigarette and you smell it, or if you get like that whiff? Oh, you guys can hear me? Can you hear me?
Keep going, man. Keep going.
No.
Can you hear me?
I hear you. You don't hear me?
You know what? Take it away, bro.
No. Can you hear me?
So look.
You don't. Can you hear me?
We've created silence.
Oh, hey.
We've created technical difficulties.
Well, listen.
I'm inspired by the idea that I can't hear a damn thing.
Hey, smoke signals.
Eventually, I wonder what we'll say. I won't hear it.
Oh, man.
Hey, we're going to control alt delete. So for all that is listening and watching, we're going to go ahead and just go with Jamar. Damien and Rebecca are going to check out for a minute, and we'll be back.
We good?
We're good.
Oh, we're back.
There's noise that way.
I hear you.
Okay.
You hear me?
I'm going to bail on the ear. I'm going to hear you from over there. Here we go, best community. We're going to empower now.
real quick, I want to share this because man, when I smell someone who smokes a cigarette, my mind naturally judges. Like my mind only thinks like, why is that person smoking? That person knows that it's bad for them. But I also like to drink, right? My drink of choice is Tito's vodka, clean vodka. And I'm thinking like, man, if someone sees me drink, they might think the same thing. Like, why is that man drinking when he knows it's bad for him? So I think all of us, there's things that if we see someone doing something that we don't subscribe to, it's a natural default thought of judgment. And I think the more we're aware of that, the more that we can just accept that other people are different. Doesn't mean that we need to like what they're doing, but if we respect it, I think that's where the growth comes from, man. Because to judge and be judged is constant. It's a default thought all the time, man.
This is empowering. Can we be empowering now? Can we?
Yeah,
can we do that now? Okay, I think that what you're saying, Jamar, is that in order to be able to put our foot down and utilize our free will to empower others through this whole judgment process, we need to create boundaries. And those boundaries need to be set up with love. Because if we're creating these boundaries in ways that are pushing the we are process away from us, then we're just isolating ourselves and we're not really enjoying this free will idea. So even if it is a judgment, whether we like it or not, the smoking, the drinking, the whatever, like to each their own, right? And that's what's so beautiful about being alive and being human, is that we have this opportunity to expand consciousness by using our thoughts to create these emotions and feelings and these internal dramas that we get to project out into the world and share with everybody. So the same thing that's so great that makes it to be alive is also what, if we choose to, can be what we accept as conflict within the process, the I am, we are process. It has to start, though, with the thought of accepting conflict within ourselves. And I think you've given us a really good example tonight, Jamar, about how we can approach things not naively or ignorantly, but in a way where we're choosing our thoughts in a manner that we're deciding that this is who we are. And we're not throwing it in other people's faces. We're just saying that this is what I stand for. This is what I believe in, and I believe in it firmly. And other people, like in your spin class, they believe in it as well. They believe in the leadership component towards fitness. And because of that, they're going to support you in your journey as a leader, and they're going to follow. So I think that what's empowering about this idea that we're becoming aware of the idea that we judge whether we like it or not is that we're creating this awareness that we can choose to accept. And whether it feels good or it hurts, we can let go of this polarity of realizing that we have to suffer in our feelings of doing that. What we can do is we can set up boundaries within ourselves. And by doing that, we can choose to love others in the decisions that they make as well. What do you think, Mike?
Well, look at this here. I mean, just because someone's a man of faith or woman of faith doesn't mean that we don't judge either, right? You know, I think about this. There was a time in my life where if someone didn't believe what I believed, I would look down at them because they didn't know truth at that time. And that right there is not being a leader. That's not how you inspire and empower other people, by looking down upon them. You know, where I'm at now in my faith walk, I love everyone. Doesn't matter what they believe, I still love them as the people. There's a lot of amazing people in my life who don't believe the faith that I believe, but they're amazing human beings, right? And so I still love them for that. But there was a time where maybe I didn't articulate that same grace and that same acceptance. And I think a lot, especially in the church community, in the faith world, there's judgment there too, right? Like, how come you're not, running this way and doing it exactly this way? And next thing you know, you got the church judging the church. And so it's just judgment everywhere. And I think as leaders, we must be aware that judgment is like blinking the eye. Like, we don't even think about blinking the eye. It's a default involuntary thought. And once we're aware of that, like, okay, I know that I have a nature that can judge. Now we can recognize when the judgment rises up. And every day we'll have the opportunity to judge or be judged. Now, here's the other challenge. As a leader, we must be strong enough and also aware that other people are going to judge us. And are we going to be strong enough to let that water flow off our back? Because once we understand that people are going to judge, then there's no anger in being judged. Like, once someone judges you, you already know that's a natural humanistic thought. Doesn't mean it's an empowering thought. It's a disempowering thought, but it's a natural one. And so once we know that this is part of the flesh game, we cannot take offense. As one of our business coaches, Dan Charlier, this week, he said, only pansies get offended. It's like only a pansy gets offended. So every single day we have opportunities to either take offense or deflect the offense. Every single day we can take it as being judged, or we can deflect the judgment. But I think as leaders, we must be aware that we judge as well. And the more we're aware of our judgment, the more we can make a conscious decision not to judge. I think that's where the power starts, man.
All right, man. Listen, this is a difficult subject for me. You know, the acceptance part of this process is it's not comfortable, man. Like I for those that live their lives in a particular way that supported a little bit more of a graceful movement, that's great. This process doesn't. It's not as uncomfortable as it would be had you not chosen to do that. But what's empowering to me about thinking about this, about throwing it out in the open, about accepting things as they are, is kind of what you just brought up, Jamar. You said that at one point you had to look at yourself, even in your own faith, and recognize that there was judgment there within yourself and that you could do an even better version of who you were. So, my final thought that I'd like to empower with, because I'd like to discuss topics that are a lot easier to unfold, that feel a lot better, but this is one that just doesn't. This is one that feels a little bit uncomfortable, that is in an uncomfortable time, and coming from me, that's very uncomfortable. You have to go through these things. You have to look at them for what they are. And Jamar, I'm sure when you were at that point where you had to look at yourself and understand that there was even a little bit of ugliness in the judgment that you had within yourself and your faith, that's tough, man. That's a deep dive. And Jamar's sitting around talking about leaders and what it takes to be a leader. But you know what? Everybody in the world out there isn't cut out to be a leader. So to me, instead of trying to lead at your job or change the world, it's got to start with one thought, with an energetic imprint, to understand that you can move yourself towards where you want to, and that where you're at right now is just the process of you learning that this is what it is, and that it doesn't always have to be that way. If it's something good and it feels good, repeat it. If it's something that doesn't, accept it. Become aware of the idea that this creation of what's going on in this moment is very uncomfortable. And if I want to avoid it in the future, it's empowering to know that I can have a thought that can turn into an emotion that's not what I feel right now. And I can move towards a better self and a better me. And if I feel better, and if I act better, if I think better, that's something worth moving towards. Even in a space right now that doesn't feel so great. I don't feel great right now, Jamar. I told you my ego is a little bit pissed off that things aren't working out. In a way that's moving a little faster, a little bigger, a little more momentum. I just want everybody to just recognize that this is what it is, everyone, and it's tough and it's not easy, and we're having to look at ourselves right now in a brand new way, and that's okay. And we have to accept it, and we have to be aware of what's happening, and we have to move forward with purposeful action. We have to decide who we want to be and stand firm in it and make sure that it's worth it. Because otherwise, why would you do it? Jamar, I need you to ask him a question. I need you to tell him something about judgment. I need you to inspire them.
Man.
Great.
Coach D, I just want to tell you I love you, bro. You know, I'm grateful for you. Thank you for the tech team and Vested community. But Vested community here, number one, in this current environment we're in right now, I want us all, including me, number one, let's be hyper aware of our natural ability to judge others. Let's be hyper aware of that judgmental spirit, that judgmental mindset. Number one, let's be aware of how we judge others. And number two, let's not be prisoners to judgment. Understand that judgment is going to come. It may even come from people that you love very dearly. It may come from a stranger you don't know. Understand judgment is going to come. And as long as we understand that judgment is going to be there, we don't need to be a prisoner to judgment, meaning not take offense to it. So number one, let's us be hyper aware of our own judgment default thought process and give others grace and acceptance despite their habits, beliefs, their decisions, their views. And number two, don't be a prisoner when that judgment comes at you. And number three, the last one, no matter what you do, make sure you do it with no judgment. Because the question is, are you vested?